Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven. I'm your host, J.F. Garrard. The Page Turner Award consists of 5 different writing contests for authors and writers of published and unpublished books and screenplays. Fiction and nonfiction writing projects are welcome from writers across the globe. A panel of literary agents and publishers choose a winner in each category. The closing deadline for 2023 is June 1st, and winners are announced in October. Success stories include writers gaining literary representation, writing mentorships, publishing contracts, and audiobook productions and book adaptations. I would like to introduce Paula Sheridan, one of the founders of the Page Turner Awards. Paula is an award-winning entrepreneur and the award-winning author of the People's Book Prize for her debut novel, The Grotto Secret, written under her pen name, Paula Wynn. Paula also runs the websites Book Lover and Writing Goals with her husband, Ken Sheridan. So how are you, Paula?
Hi, lovely to meet you. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Paula Sheridan. I write under Paula Wynn. Most of my books are written under Paula Wynn. I have a few new books coming out this year, which I am writing under Paula Sheridan. And funny enough, my name is also Paula Hawkins. You'd never believe that I am Paula Hawkins, but I grew up as Paula Hawkins. So I've, because of the other Paula Hawkins, I'm now changing my name. One of my books I've written, which is a memoir, it's going to be, I have to do it as Paula Grace Hawkins, my second name, but it's just a funny little story there. But yeah, so my first book, The Grotto Secret, which I've got here as The Grotto Secret, this book won the People's Book Prize, and when I went off to a very big fancy do in London, and I had loads and loads of publishers and all sorts of people there, all sorts of top literary people there, and my award was given to me by Sir Frederick Forsyth, and it was a huge honor, and it was a very inspiring and motivating event. And on the night, I was thinking to myself, I wondered if I could do an awards program, but instead of just having published, mainstream published, what if I could also have published, because I'm indie published and I'm mainstream published. I've been published both ways. And I was wondering, I was thinking, I wonder if I could get some kind of awards that would encourage both sides of publishing to enter the awards. And I came home and I said to Ken, my husband, I said to him, you know, they got this idea, you know, what do you think of it? And he said, well, you know, certainly try it. And I did. I wrote off to some judges, just focused on the kind of judges I wanted to possibly have, you know, in this kind of awards. Wrote off to them and said to them, what do you think about the idea? They came back to me, said, sounds like a great idea. You know, why don't you go for it? So, and I did. And so, you know, as soon as I started getting some traction, some judges coming in, I started writing off to more and more judges. The kind of judges we've got are literary agents and publishers for our writing award, because as you mentioned, we got 5 different awards. The writing award is for unpublished writers who have an unpublished novel or a non-fiction book, and they want to the judges that they want is the literary agent, the literary agents and the publishers to read their work and see if their work is able to, you know, to get a publishing deal or a literary representation. And I started getting some judges who were quite keen on that. And then I started getting loads of fabulous judges for the book award, and we got fantastic prizes like audiobook productions and book adaptations, where authors, especially indie authors who don't get the chance to have their book adapted to film, that's the kind of prizes that I was sort of reaching out for. Then we've got the Screenplay Award, and film producers look at that, at the scripts there. And then we've got the Young Writer Award, which is unpublished writing, but it's for 18 to 25-year-olds, so they have to be in that age group. And then we've got the Writing Mentorship Award, and the Writing Mentorship Award is where we've got 5 different mentors who will choose at least one. They say they're going to choose one, but in the last year or so, they have actually chosen more than one. Last year, we had 8 mentorships that were won, but at least there is at least a guaranteed 5 mentorships. And The writing mentorship is really for new writers who are starting out, or authors who are struggling with a particular piece of work, like maybe a memoir. They might have written fiction and they're struggling to write a memoir, and they can enter the Writing Mentorship Award. And then these 5 writing mentors would choose somebody to mentor, and then they would mentor them over the whole year. So that's kind of where we're at with Page Turner Awards. We've also got lots of subcategories and different awards, like Best Writer, Best Golden Writer, Best Author. We've got Best Series, various Best Book Cover, Best Illustrated Book, lots of things like that. So it kind of gives writers and authors a variety of different awards that they could enter for different writing that they've got.
Like, because the awards are for both published and unpublished. So when people pick a category, like, do they have to have a check mark to let the judges know, okay, I've been published before?
Exactly. So when they enter a particular category, they can enter any 5 of the categories, but they have to choose one of those categories. And then within each of those categories, there is subcategories. So say, for example, on the book award, there'd be Best Cover, Best Series, Best Author, but you wouldn't have on the Screenplay Award. On the Screenplay Award, you'd have feature film and TV series. And then on the Writing Mentorship, they would just go into Writing Mentorship. So yeah, each of the 5 categories has subcategories.
Now I'm thinking, how do you find the judges? Like, do you have connections from school, or?
Not from school, no. It's just my connections. I just write off to people. Mostly for the judges, I just sort of cherry pick them. I look at various judges that I think, wow, these people, this particular person would be brilliant on Page Turner Awards, and then I just write off to them and see if they're interested in becoming a judge. So that's really all that I do.
And do the judges provide feedback?
Yeah, they do. They provide feedback. We have 2 things. We have optional extra feedback, which is during the awards season. So we open in January and we close on the 1st of June. And during that period, we have an editorial team. We have various editors that work with our entrants. And our entrants can choose an option if they want to get feedback, but that's not from the judges. That feedback comes from our editorial team. And then when the judges are actually judging, because the judging will then start on the 1st of June and go through the summer. And when the judges are reading it, they provide feedback if they really enjoy it. They don't provide feedback if they feel that the writing needs more work. And if if it's going to be something that will demotivate the writer, they don't do it, because we prefer for them to motivate and inspire. If they have any comments, for example, they might say, this character is a fantastic character, just do a little bit more work on them, or your writing is very good, you just need to concentrate on this part or that part. They do add that in the comments. They do add that, so the writer does get to know about that, but only if it's encouraging, because we don't want any criticism. That's not what the awards are about. It's really all about motivating writers and encouraging them to keep writing, and the most important thing is to keep learning the craft of writing, because that's really what we're all about.
Well, I mean, this year's contest is still running. Last year, do you know how many entries was received?
Not off the top of my head, but it's in the thousands. I'm not sure how many. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it's in the thousands.
Say, so
it's tough.
Less people?
It's tough competition. So
yeah,
when it's a fantastic honor, and since before we've had, don't know what we'll get this year, but in the last 2 years we have had some writers who've got to, we've had at least 2 or 3 books that have got to a very good position in the final. So that's very, very good for some writers to have 2 or 3 books in the getting to that stage. So it's great.
Like, I see a lot of writing awards online, and some may think that starting an award is easy to do. Like, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome to make this a success?
I think the biggest thing is the amount of time that you have to put into it. I mean, my husband and I work full time. We're completely dedicated to, to this business. We we start working on it from the moment the judging stops. From the moment the entries stop in June and the judging starts, we're already working on next year. So it takes around about 6 months to prepare and plan for next year. And then it takes 6 months to run it, and then another 6 months. So it's a constant. People just think, it's a few months and that's it. It's not. It's all round work, and we, because we're international, we have people calling us in the middle of the night when we're eating dinner or whatever, because we're on one time zone and somebody else is on another time zone, and they don't actually think, they don't read our pages, our contact pages say, GMT time 10 to 4. Between 10 and 4, you can call us, and they don't do that, and then they phone us. But we don't reject their calls. We always answer their calls. Weekends as well, we get calls. So, that's kind of one of the challenges, that it kind of just, jumps in and gets into, any private time you've got. And it's hard to sort of say to yourself, I'm not going to answer, and I'm not going to help people. I'm not going to do anything, because we're so dedicated to it, and we're so passionate about what we do. So from that point of view, it's hard. And I know lots of entrepreneurs who have that situation, who, their business kind of gets in the way. But we just run with it. We go with the flow. We just, we just manage it. We don't let it bother us. But yeah, it is really a full-time job. It's a lot of work, and a lot of people don't realize just how much work it is. But, that's one of the challenges. And like any business, any writing, even if you're writing a story, writing a screenplay, writing a novel, whatever it is, there's always going to be challenges. So yeah, that's just the way we handle it.
Now, you're still a writer. How do you organize your time?
The answer is I don't know. It's very difficult, because at the moment I've just written a screenplay, and I'm pitching it to film producers. It's a memoir, and I had written it as a memoir, and then I turned it into I realized it wasn't going to work as a memoir. It had to be based on a true story rather than a memoir. So I've spent a lot of time on that. I've also got 2 books coming out this year. I've got possibly a couple more. It's just over the last few years I've been slowly working on them. I probably, if we go away on holiday, I do a lot of writing on my holiday time, because it's kind of my downtime from work, and that's the kind of time that I'm able to write. The rest of the time is I'm an early riser. I mean, this morning I was up at 4:30. It's now 4:30 in the afternoon, so I've been at my desk for 12 hours. I'm because I'm an early riser, I do my writing. I try and do my writing early hours, because my brain is a bit fresher. And then on the weekends, my husband is he's Irish, and he's a big Irish rugby fan. So whenever he's watching any rugby, I quickly take the time out to quickly sneak away into my writing room, and then I get my writing done. So it is a challenge. I think it's the same as most writers. Most of us as writers and authors just have to fit the time in between raising children, looking after kids, parents, pets, whatever it is. We just have to fit the time in, and it's just a case of, what project at that particular moment in time do I have to jump to and spend my time on, and it really is what is in my heart at that particular moment in time. And I've got so many projects going on. It's really a juggle, and trying to say, okay, which one do I do first? And I just have to prioritize, like all of us have to do, and just say, what's going to get my attention today. And some days early in the morning, I can't get to writing, because, we might have a deadline on Page Turner Awards. I also run Book Lover, and we do newsletters for authors to promote their books to our readers, because we've got a very big reader base of about 120 something readers. So I'm always preparing newsletters. So if I've got a deadline and I have to do those things, my writing time has to take a back seat, and I do those things, and then try and come back to my writing at another time. So yeah, it is a challenge, but like all of us writers, whoever's out there listening and watching, they'll know that they're in the same boat. They do the same sort of thing, just juggling life, juggling whatever is going on in your life at the same time.
Now, back to the Page Turner Awards. Are there any Do you have any favorite success stories from any of the winners?
Yeah, well, we've got some fantastic success stories. The girl who won last year, she has an LGBT book. She won the writing award last year, and at the moment, I can't say anything because I don't really know much apart from she won a literary agent, and the literary agent is super, super excited about her work, and the agents had spent some time working because that was in October. No, that was November that she was announced as the winner. And for the best part of the last few months, they've been working on a few little edits and a few things that they wanted to do. Not much was needed. And they are now working on getting the book out to publishers and trying to see if she can get a publishing deal. So that's a very big excitement for us. Another one is Johnny King. He won the Screenplay Award. And when he won the Screenplay Award, it was for a TV series. And he has now got a British actor attached to his script, and he won an LA entertainment agent, and that agent is now sending off his series to lots of very, very big production companies in the US in Hollywood, and trying to see if they can, to get somebody to buy the series and to take it on. Series are a bit more difficult to sell than just a feature film, because series is a long-term thing, and you've got a lot more in production, and there's also the option of further seasons, and you have to get the pilot right. Once you got the pilot right, then the first season can go ahead, and then of course if there is potential for future seasons, so it takes a bit longer, but that's another great success story. And then we've had a few other writers who've won publishing deals, and it's great because they've got a book out from having entered the award. And then and also for nonfiction. I mean, I'm talking at the moment mostly about fiction, but nonfiction from the writing mentorship. Helen Rowe, not last year but the year before, she won a writing mentorship with a nonfiction mentor, Karen Williams, and on the night of the awards, Helen was just screaming and shouting. It was lovely to see. She was so excited. It was lovely, really lovely to see. And for about a year, she worked with Karen. Karen mentored her to get the book, to a state of being able to be published. And then she wrote off to various people. She went to the London Book Fair, pitched her book, and she's now got a book that's coming out this year. I think it's late summer. The same book that she entered into Page Turner Awards 2 years ago, and the book is now being published, and it's actually called Eliminating Poverty in Britain. So it's a very heavy subject. It's a needed subject, and it's a very heavy subject. So it also goes to show that entering contests and writing contests, and that's not just ours, it's any writing contest, it's important for writers to understand that even if they've got some of these very heavy subjects in a non-fiction book as well as fiction, there is a very good chance that they can get their writing discovered and they can possibly, win a publishing deal. And for somebody like Helen, she's over the moon, and it's taken a lot of time, and she's put a lot of time into it, and she's had to do a lot of research, and she's found out so many important things. For example, at our ceremony, she was saying that in nonfiction, every time you reference somebody and you reference something, any fact, anywhere, whether it's a written fact or if it's on Google, you have to write off and get permission. You can't just say, oh, and so say this, or quote somebody. You have to actually write off and get permission. And then another thing which she was really stunned at, and it surprised a lot of people who was at our ceremony. A lot of the publishers want money. They want, if you put in a quote saying XYZ person in XYZ book said something or other, and you want to quote them in your book that you write, in your nonfiction book, you have to actually get permission. But not only that, a lot of the publishers will ask for some kind of a fee, so that that they can get some kind of money out of it. So she then has to decide, does she, if her publisher can afford to pay that fee, that's fine. But if they can't, then she has to find another way to utilize that same information. That's very important for what she wants to say in her book, but she has to find another route, another resource, another reference point. So, what she said was all very good stuff, and all of that she learned from during a mentorship, and that's that's the great thing about writers who have some very important material that they want to get published and to get out there, but they don't know how to, and that's why winning a writing mentorship is fantastic for some writers. So yeah, we've had some brilliant stuff.
Okay, one last question. Do you have any tips for potential contestants?
I have quite a few tips. It depends how many you want. I can talk all day on this. Let me go through it quickly and tell you. So first of all, I would say if they're entering any contest, what they really have to do, and that's just not just Page Turner Awards, because one of the things that I've been very, since I set up Page Turner Awards, I've been very aware of is I entered a lot of, I won the People's Book Prize, but I entered a lot of competitions, and I have entered a lot of competitions, and a lot of your listeners might know this and hear this and understand this, that when you send your work out and you enter and you pay your money, there's most times you don't hear anything back. And that's very worrying, because you kind of don't know if that bit of money that you've put in and that entrance has gone into somebody's holiday fund or gone into building a conservatory for them or whatever. Because a lot of book awards they are very closed doors. They don't invite communication. And that could be because it's just they have a few judges reading the work and they don't really want to communicate with people. But one of the things that I found that very difficult to stomach. I found that very hard as a writer to not hear anything and not even hear anything at the end when the awards was announced. Sometimes they didn't even enter, or sometimes they would send you a message saying, thank you for entering, but you haven't won. And I just found that very difficult. So I kind of said, I wanted to make it that I was always going to be upfront, make sure that we always communicated with our writers. We would always be on constant communication. So I think that's an important tip for writers entering any contests. Also, to make sure there's transparency. If they, like, for example, on our side, you can look at all of our judges, who's judging, what they're judging. If they're judging different award categories, you can see the kind of thing. We always put a quote in saying, if a judge says, I want to hear unique voices, or I want to see good writing, or I want to see compelling character. The judges have told us this, and this is what we put on the site. So that's important for writers who are entering contests, is to go in and look and see transparency and make sure that they can see and feel good inside themselves, that they know that this contest they're entering looks legit. It looks like it's all above board. It looks like it's doing good things. We also advocate to our writers, if they're not happy, or if they're happy about something, leave a testimonial, because we can say a whole lot of good things about our awards and we can sprout out all we like, but really at the end of the day, it's what the people who have entered, the writers and authors who have entered our awards, it's what they think, it's what they feel. If they've been happy with the way we're running it, if they're happy with the way we're communicating, if they're happy with how things are run. And so we always encourage them to go and put a testimonial up on our site. So I always say for tips for writers entering other contests, it's important is to look at those things. If there aren't any testimonials, if you can't see who's judging, if you don't know, if there's no transparency, it really is important to see what you can see about the awards. If it all looks open and above board, then you shouldn't have a problem and you should be comfortable entering. But if it isn't, then just be wary that, of giving your very well-earned money and giving money to the awards, because that's one of the things that I always said from the beginning, is I always wanted to make sure that our awards were always open and very open and upfront, and also very inclusive. I didn't want to make it was only mainstream authors, or only indie authors, or only these people, or only those people. I've made it so that everything is inclusive. Anybody, everybody, anywhere can enter, because there's writers across the whole world, and there's writers in every avenue, from highly educated, highly academic people right down to tradespeople. And and manual workers, and there's nothing wrong with any of those people and any of those writers, because they've all got a very good story to tell. They've all got something that they believe in their heart that needs to be told. And why can't all of those people enter? There's no reason. So again, those are the kind of things that writers just need to look at and be careful of when they're entering awards or contests.
A few minutes left, but when you're talking about transparency, I'm thinking when someone pays their hard-earned money for the award, it's going towards the judges because it's their time, right? That's one aspect I believe such an entry fee would go to. So people shouldn't feel like they're wasting money or anything like that. So
yeah, because the judges are very important, and if you've got judges who come from a highly experienced background, and you've got a variety of judges, again, that's something that's, as you just said, that's important to look at and see, who those judges are, what kind of people they are. If those are the kind of people that you want looking at your work, then certainly enter. I mean, if you want to get a publishing deal and you want to have a publisher or a literary agent looking at your work, put your work in front of those kind of judges. If you want film producers to look at your work, put your work in front of those judges. If you want mentors to look at your work, that's the kind of people you must go for. Or, in our, for some of our prizes, we've got audiobook production, or we've got a book adaptations. Those judges are people that authors want to have their work put in front of. So yeah, look at those judges and then make up your mind for yourself.
Have you heard of any non-winners getting any deals or getting more later? Like,
how do you mean non-winners?
Like if they're not the winner, like if they're a second, third, fourth, like.
Oh yes. On our awards, what we do is we don't just give a badge. We do give a badge, but a lot of awards and contests just give a badge.
Yeah.
But what we do is we actively look during the period that we're working on. So in June, we'll start working on next year's awards. And we actively look for prizes that are valuable to authors. So anything that would be of value, writing contest, anything for learning, teaching the craft, anything that will help them to promote their book, all of these kind of awards, prizes. So we've got about 40,000, 45,000 pounds worth of prizes. So all of those prizes are given, and they're not just given to winners. Winners will get certain prizes, and then mostly our prizes go to everybody in the shortlist. So everybody in all of the 5 shortlists, which is equaling about between 50 and 90, maybe 100 writers, will get some kind of prize. So we always give those prizes. So yes, non-winners do get prizes. In our awards, non-winners do. So mostly everybody who gets to the shortlist will get some kind of a prize.
Paula, you're going to do a bit of a reading. Could you tell us what you're going to read before you start?
I'm going to read from The Grotto Secret, which is my debut novel, which won the People's Book Prize. And the story actually came to me when my husband and we moved to Spain. We were on a TV show called Escape to the Continent, a British TV show, BBC show. And we walked onto this property, which we now own. And we've got this beautiful valley looking down over Malaga, sort of rolling hills and valleys going down to Malaga. And we've got a beautiful mountain behind us. And I sort of looked down onto this valley, and suddenly I had in my head this, because it's sort of secret valleys, it's a private nature reserve, so it's secret valleys, kind of this grotto came to me, and this character came to me, and she lives in 1492, and the book is woven between a modern character and a medieval historical character. And in this particular scene that I'm going to read, it's the character has had some terrible things. She wrote a herbal manual. Her mother is a herbalist, and she wrote a manual for her mother because she can write, and her mother's always busy working. And she wrote this manual, and and it's during the Spanish Inquisition time. And unfortunately, one of her flaws is she was impatient, like I was saying a few minutes ago about me, and she wanted to get this herbal journal published in some way, and she had sent it off with her Jewish tutor, and he had sent it off, and unfortunately by sending it off, she came to the notice of the Spanish Inquisition, and they sent some guys out, some bad guys, They sent these guys out, and these guys have come and they have done some terrible things to her and her mother. And the scene that I'm about to read is she just wants to understand what's happening because her mother has been really hurt and she's feeling very, very guilty. And there are some soldiers in the house. These Spanish Inquisition soldiers have come, and they got a very sweet little cottage in this little valley I was telling you about near the grotto. And so she's now very, very upset at seeing her mother because she just came and found her mother in this terrible condition. So, should I start reading? Okay, her name is Maria. So Maria wanted to turn her eyes so Madra wouldn't read her guilt, but her mother's eyes held hers. Say nothing of the journal, or they will do these terrible things to you too. Maria's voice cracked. Never. Your secret is safe, Mama. Mama cried. Try to run. Don't fight back. You have no chance. But Maria nodded. She couldn't tell her mother. She had no intention of giving in. She'd rather die than be violated or imprisoned or whatever else they had planned for her and for her mother. Instead, she told Madra, in silence, I will never give up. The unbooted and cloaked soldier spoke at the top of their voices, eating stew with loud burps and grunts. Again, Madra took the opportunity to whisper to her, I don't think it could be one of my patients, but maybe. Maria whispered, tell me, Madra. I will think about them. I will find them. I will kill them. Madra whispered back. Fernando's wife thought that baby would live. She couldn't understand it was inside her so long in the wrong position. Mama's words were consumed with agony. Maria whispered so she could take her mother's place. Maria wished she could take her mother's place. She didn't see Fernando and I. We pulled it out and the cord tangled around the baby's neck. I will find her, Mama. But Mama tugged her, struggling to speak. She is not to blame, Maria. You will do her no harm. Mama lay her shed head down on the stone floor, looking too exhausted to say any more. Madra was right. This had not come from a woman whose baby was dying. Taking a deep, very guilty breath, Maria closed her eyes and overcame the desire to confess her sin of sending the story and the journal, the beautiful, historical, herbal journal that she had written for her mother, that she had sent to Barcelona. The leather jerkin kicked the door open with his boot and barged back into the kitchen. Maria stared as he inserted a metal claw into the fire. As the flames heated the surface, she could see two sharp, U-shaped points on each other, and they looked as though they pinched together. Blood pounded in her ears. Dios santo. This was their spider. And that is one of the Spanish Inquisition torture treatments. They have this thing which they call a spider, and it's a claw. It was actually quite gross and gruesome when I was researching this. But this particular piece of torture equipment, it's like a spider, and they insert it into parts of people, and this is how they torture her mother. And she manages to escape and helps to get her mother away, but that's sort of to come. So there you go.
All right, well, thank you very much for your reading, and everyone remember to enter the page turner contest, and the deadline is June 1st. So thank you very much once again. For more upcoming episodes of the Artsy Raven about writing and publishing, visit us at jfgarrard.com/arpodcast. A reminder to Patreon subscribers that there's bonus content available for every episode on the Patreon website. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your appreciation by buying us some digital coffee. The Artsy Raven is produced by J.F. Garrard. The voice in the show's introduction is Chris Gorman, and music is by Tim Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.